and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs, recognizing first responders and other deserving individuals in our community. Friday mornings at 8:30 on News Talk KVNU.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Northern Steel Building. The driver of a truck has been hospitalized after being struck by a train this afternoon. The crash happened just before 1:30 p.m. at near 110 West, 800 South in Trenton. Last hour, KVNU's Will Philwright filed a report from the scene.
This was a fully loaded freight train, more than 100 cars on this train as it was traveling south. And from what authorities believe at this point, the driver of the truck attempted to cross the tracks at 110 West, 800 South in Trenton, did not see the approaching train for some reason, proceeded over the tracks and was struck. The train continued for about another quarter of a mile before it was able to completely come to a complete stop. The driver of the truck had to be extricated from the vehicle by emergency crews and transported to a hospital in critical condition. We're receiving reports now that he is being transferred down to Ogden for further treatment. Now, he has not been identified by authorities pending notification of family.
But authorities do believe that the man was a local or is a local resident. Keep it here on KBNU for more on this story and also at CashValleyDaily.com. If you're headed home this afternoon, we've received word traffic light was out just a little while ago at Hyde Park Lane, US 91. And traffic apparently backed up in both directions because of that. I don't know if that's been resolved just yet, but you might want to be aware of that. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy and a slight chance of snow this evening. Partly cloudy, high around 30 on Friday. It's 23 right now at KVNU. January clearance continues at U&I Furniture. Lots of closeouts and really good values store-wide. Pick out a chair, big selection, lift chairs, accent chairs, rocker, recliners, power or manual chairs. For over 90 years, there's always a better buy at U&I.
In the beginning of time, in a land far away, hid a material in the earth so versatile that once discovered could give way to a century of innovation. From primitive weapons to railroads to buildings that scrape the skies.
What is it? Steel. And without it, our world would look much different. Nothing is stronger or more versatile than steel. And if you want a building that'll stand the test of time, call Northern Steel Buildings at 435-677-7300 or visit northernsteelbuilding.com. That's northernsteelbuilding.com.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. Governor Spencer Cox will deliver his annual 2023 State of the State address to the people of Utah in a joint session of the legislature tonight. The address, in which the governor typically presents his priorities, vision, and goals for Utah's future, is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. in the House chamber of the Utah Capitol. KVNU will carry the governor's address live tonight on 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNUtalk.com, and the KVNU mobile app. During his address, Cox is expected to discuss his unprecedented $28.4 billion budget proposal for the upcoming fiscal year. Cox unveiled that proposal in early December, calling it a plan that reflects fiscal conservatism and family values by investing in people and expanding opportunities for Utahns across the state. At the top of his list of priorities is more than $1 billion in tax cuts for state residents over 3 years, coupled with tax cuts made by the legislature in past years. Cox's proposal would total more than $1.3 billion in tax relief for Utahns, the largest single tax cut in history. Cox has also recommended a $6,000 compensation increase for all Utah teachers, including a pay hike of approximately $4,600 plus appropriate benefits. And the Logan Family History Center had a name change as of January 10th. It is now the Family Search Center, and it's located in the old Pioneer LDS 4th Ward building at 294 North, 100 East in Logan. While the tabernacle is being remodeled, all the files have been moved to the new location. The Logan Family Search Center is only temporarily located at the church building until it moves to a more permanent location in the Bishop Storehouse on 2200 North. The change affects the Family History Library in Salt Lake City, most known for its family research and discovery, as well as some 5,000 other local centers. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Elements has delicious lunch specials, 2 for $30, or the new soup, salad, and bread special for just $10. It's tasty and quick. Elements' lunch menu is full of scrumptious items prepared with a personal touch. Wood-fired pizzas are an excellent choice that include barbecue chicken and the bee's knees. The fresh battered halibut fish and chips with seasoned fries is always a hit. And don't forget the fan-favorite Munster Burger. Casual or professional. Open Monday through Thursday, 11:30 to 8 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11:30 to 9 p.m. Visit theelementsrestaurant.com for reservations today.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Looking at the world through the sunset in your eyes. Traveling the train through clear Moroccan skies. Ducks and pigs and chickens.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Change of plans. We'll be getting to your headlines with smooth jazz here in a bit. We were going to start off today's show with a guest, North Logan Mayor Lindsay Peterson. We're going to have to postpone that. And because I'm out for the film festival, she'll be getting back with us next Thursday instead. So North Logan Mayor, I can't talk today. North Logan Mayor Lindsay Peterson will join us. You can do mime, and I can. Can you interpret for me? Yeah. He's saying, so North Logan Mayor Lindsay Peterson will be with us next Thursday instead. We will be getting an update from her on the garbage situation. I don't know how else to refer to it. This has been an ongoing discussion between. The situation really is not specific to North Logan even. It's specific to Logan City and the Valley's growth. And we talked about this yesterday with Logan City Mayor Holly Danes in for her monthly Speak to the Mayor segment. The simple facts of the matter, the Valley's growing, and the burden that at one point was something Logan City could easily assume when it comes to trash collection, when it comes to green waste collection, when it comes to all the various things that the city kind of did countywide, that's no longer as practical or feasible. And so Logan City has basically asked almost every city to sit down with them and work something new out. And so North Logan Mayor Lindsay Peterson has been leading this group of mayors and other city officials in various cities trying to work out something along the lines of trash collection. And so those conversations, she told us when she was with us last month, are still ongoing. They've got a lot of work to do still, but they are working and talking, and rumors that things have broken down, she told us, are not based on fact. She said the conversations have been great, and that no one's so far unhappy with any of what has been decided or put down on paper. So that's all good news, to say the least. But again, North Logan Mayor Lindsay Peterson will be with us 1 week from today, and we'll get an update on that officially. I know North Logan residents are hoping to hear more about this soon, but we'll have some news to break on that front, hopefully before then. Speaking of conversations, later on this hour, what the Cache Water District is watching closely in this legislative session, and it is a lengthy list. But the most interesting story is why these bills are getting water district attention from especially rural areas like ours. That's coming up later on in the show, though. Right now, though, our effort to bring down the temperature when it comes to the news and the headlines of the day. It's your headlines with smooth jazz. Today was, for a moment, a tense day on Utah's Capitol Hill as Senator Dan Thatcher, who said, well, he's had some medical issues. He's had several strokes since November, and he's going to be fine, he said. Doctors expect a full recovery. But today on the Senate floor, most people were watching via live stream and from the gallery overhead, he appeared to have a medical emergency. It appeared on the video stream as if he sort of collapsed mid-sentence. This was during a heated debate over a ban on transgender health care that one lawmaker, Senator Michael Kennedy, is sponsoring. Republican Senator Dan Thatcher is a vocal opponent of these efforts. He said last year during the debate over banning transgender kids from youth sports, he said this will lead to suicides and it solves no problem that actually exists in this state. In an angry and fiery speech. I'm sorry, that was 2 years ago. He was at that point, people thought, oh, is he going to lose his primary now? Where he'd pinned all of his hopes on delegates. He wasn't collecting signatures. Nope, delegates gave him the nod for the nomination, and he easily won re-election in his district. So he's back for another session, but today again, it appeared he collapsed mid-sentence while angrily begging his colleagues to back off what he called transgender hate that he's seeing this session. During his impassioned remarks, he was telling his colleagues that, it was an emotional debate that was going on, and this was on the bill that would prohibit what doctors call gender-affirming care for minors who are transgender, and Senator Daniel Thatcher was saying, this will cause harm. We're sending a message to our transgender friends and family in Utah that you don't belong here, that you shouldn't even exist. And he said that's the message. While making those remarks and getting very emotional, even bordering on tears, Thatcher just paused and then sort of just collapsed into his chair. You saw several other fellow senators nearby rush over to see if he was okay. Just seconds later, he was back on his feet. He said, I'm fine. I just had to bring my heart rate down. And, Senate Bill 16 from Senator Michael Kennedy, Republican from Alpine, was on the floor for debate at the time. And Thatcher, again, who opposed last year's legislation seeking to ban transgender athletes from participating in youth sports, was again warning his colleagues that they should be a no vote on the bill. And he, during his remarks today, told his colleagues of a near-death experience that happened during one of his own strokes. He said, I don't care what your religious beliefs are. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I don't care if you think this is all hallucination of mine without proper blood flow. But he said, I was at peace because I knew I had never backed a piece of legislation during my entire time as a Utah State Senator that was based on fear and hate, and these bills are. Thatcher has been a lone, outspoken proponent of a different approach inside the State Senate. So that led to some pauses in legislative action today, but he was quickly back on his feet and again said he just needed to get his heart rate down as he's recovering from a series of strokes he had in November. A very young guy, too, so... this day in history, this is for January 19th, Howard Hughes sets a new cross-country air record. That was in 1937. I don't know if it still exists, Bill, but I remember as a kid, it was actually my parents and a couple of aunts, some extended family. They took us all Southern California. We did the Queen Mary tour, but we also did the Spruce Goose Museum, I think, there in Southern California. And Howard Hughes was represented a lot in some of the exhibits. And then I learned that he was an odd guy. He was a germaphobe. But that's an understatement. He spent the last few weeks of his life he was very wealthy. Spent the last few weeks of his life, or last few years of his life, in what he felt was a germ-proof environment, and people had to change into slippers and scrubs to come in and visit him. So, but yeah, he set a new cross-country air record on this day in 1937. This is a popular one, and how they determined this is an interesting story too. On this day in 1953, Lucille Ball gave birth on I Love Lucy. And
scandalous.
It was a controversial episode because it showed her in a hospital bed, in a gown. It showed what were considered intimate moments of pregnancy and delivery. No nudity or anything like that, but it was a controversial episode. That
I think in those days, I don't think you could even say pregnant.
Yeah.
On network television.
Yeah, and you definitely weren't supposed to show a woman in a bed. What would that have all the men with no self-control thinking? But yeah, it was a groundbreaking episode in 1953 on this day. Scrabble, the board game, the official invention day today in 1955. And this was determined by the patent itself because there was actually a fight over this. Several individuals claim to have come up with the Scrabble game or something very similar to it, the board game version, but one man had proof, and so retroactively he was given the invention patent and the invention date, which he marked down as January 19th, 1955. Famous birthdays today. James Wall, a famous inventor. Robert E. Lee, famous Civil War general, who was born in 1807. Author and poet Edgar Allan Poe was born on this day in 1809. And two of my personal favorites, not Shawn Wayans, the actor, he was also born on this day, but Janis Joplin and Dolly Parton. I did not know they shared a birthday. I didn't know that. Janis Joplin
probably didn't. They don't share much else as far as musical styles,
and I don't think they ever met. But yeah, two of my favorite.
Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows?
Two of my favorite women in two different genres of music for sure. Janis Joplin, born on this day in 1943, and get this, Bill. You don't think of this because Janis Joplin died so young, and we remember her. There are only photos of her at a young age. Janis Joplin was actually 3 years older than Dolly Parton. Janis Joplin born on this day in 1943, and Dolly Parton born on this day in 1946.
Yeah, Janis had not a happy life, died way too young.
Yeah, and strange to think of her, again, where she's, cemented in history at this young age because of her early death. Strange to think of her actually being a 3 years older than Dolly Parton. So, Dolly's still going strong, of course. Those are your headlines with smooth jazz. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome to the new year and happy winter driving. As the weather outside gets colder, it's more important than ever to have a reliable vehicle to get you around safely. That's where Murdoch Hyundai comes in with the Drive at Home sales event. Right now, receive 2.9% for 5 years on the 2023 Tucson or Santa Fe. And every new Hyundai comes with America's best warranty, a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty, and owner's assurance. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Hyundai in Logan, Linda Murray, or online at murdochhyundai.com.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 1/31/23. Experts tell us that the 3 areas of balance for proper health are exercise, nutrition, and sleep. This is Ryan, owner of My Mattress, and while My Mattress store can't really help with exercise and nutrition, we can help with better sleep. If a person started today to live a balanced life in health, exercise, and sleep, 3 things might happen. 1, we might throw away the bag of peanut M&Ms that we have stashed. 2, we might get up off the couch and exercise. And 3, we'd come buy a new mattress here at My Mattress.
Look around me, I can see my life before me, running rings around the way it used to be.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. We haven't done one of these yet, and that's an oversight on my part. I try to remind myself that this is different. It's not different in a lot of ways for me than it is for all of you out there listening. The legislative session, I have no more sway over a lawmaker than anyone else would, just because I have this megaphone every day. I mean, I can make trouble for them, I guess, if I really wanted to, but I generally feel like our Cache Valley lawmakers do a really good job of not getting over their skis, of for the most part. Rep. Peterson occasionally has a bill where I highly doubt a constituent in Cache Valley came to you with that bill. So maybe knock that off. But the rest of them, almost 100% of the time, are running legislation that is germane to Cache Valley, that is also making sure Cache Valley is represented in this large body of lawmakers, especially in the House, where they're vastly outnumbered, but also in the Senate, where we only have 2, Senator Sandel for the south nip of the valley there, and then Senator Wilson for the majority of the valley. It's really important that they have a voice and all that, and I think they do a great job. Whether you agree with them on every bill or not is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that most of what comes from Cache Valley lawmakers, again, with the exception of Representative Peterson, who at least the last 2 sessions has had a bill or 2 that raise an eyebrow, as far as it being kind of a broader social issue, not something that probably came from a constituent. The rest of them, I think it's worth commending them on that. Again, whether you agree with where they're coming from or not is not my point. My point is they do what they were elected to do, even if you disagree with how they're doing it or what they're doing. They're representing Cache Valley, and that's what they're supposed to do. This doesn't happen everywhere in the state. Utah County and Salt Lake County, it's a trend more common these days than ever before to run these national political bills and these social issue bills that are quote unquote solving problems that even one of the best examples was the whole thing over critical race theory, where you had the Senate president standing up there saying, we need to do this, but it's not a problem here in Utah. He literally said that. He said, it's not being taught in K through 12 schools in Utah, but we need to ban it. I mean, it's just silliness. And hats off to Cache Valley lawmakers for never falling into that mindless trap. Maybe one day we'll have someone here in Cache Valley who has aspirations and wants to run for higher office, because that's usually why a state lawmaker gets mired down this rabbit hole, is they're trying to put themselves in the spotlight. So they run these hot button bills that have nothing to do with Utah or their district, but get a lot of attention, maybe even some CNN coverage. And that's usually why they do it. And so maybe one day we'll have someone here in Cache Valley elected to state office, state house or state senate, and they'll have aspirations and we'll have this problem. But for the time being, and at least in all the time I've covered the legislature in one way or another, Cache Valley lawmakers have done a really good job of staying away from that. So with that in mind, again, I forget that because of this show and because of having a close working relationship with our elected officials, to get them on the show to bring their perspective and to have them talk about bills they're running before and during the session. I forget that I can just text these folks. They know who I am, and they know I'm asking them to come for some radio time, and they usually want that. So for regular folks, I think sometimes I ran into this today. I was talking with a person who was very upset about a specific piece of legislation. This had to do with a business bill, a small business bill, and he said sometimes I feel like our legislature forgets that small businesses exist. They're all about the larger businesses that can afford Chamber of Commerce memberships in the statewide Chamber of Commerce and go to the annual statewide Chamber of Commerce symposium that just happened last week. And he said that's where lawmakers seem to have all of their ears and eyes focused. And small businesses with like 2 employees or 10 employees, he said people don't realize that we get ignored by our state lawmakers a lot. And he was very upset about this bill. And I said, have you reached out to, based on where he lives, Representative Dan Johnson or Senator Chris Wilson? And he said, no, I haven't. What's the point? And I didn't have time to argue with him or try and make a case. And so here's my pitch to everyone out there, whether you're a small business owner, a mom, a dad, someone who is in college or just out headed into the workforce. Regardless of what your personal situation is, what your concern is, here's my pitch. This person, I guarantee, I don't have permission to use his name. I should have asked, but I guarantee if this person had sent an email to Senator Chris Wilson or to Representative Dan Johnson and said, I run a business with 2 employees, and here's why this bill coming from a lawmaker in Orem. Here's why this bill concerns me. Here's why I think that you're forgetting the effect this could have on very small businesses, because he said they lump us together in these groups. You're 0 to 50 employees. You're all in the same group. Well, he pointed out when we were having this conversation, there's a big difference between what is feasible for a business with 27 employees, under 50 still, right? But that's very different than what a business with 2 employees can absorb. And so he said that gets lost in this because everything gets so kind of standardized. And so I wish I had thought to tell him this or had time to tell him this. And so I'm telling you all now here on air. It would have made a difference. Sending that email. Or when it comes to Cache Valley lawmakers, you can actually call them. If you go to le.utah.gov and search for your lawmaker, regardless of where you live in the valley, or even if you're listening outside the valley, you can do this. See who your House representative, which House district you're in. Here in Cache Valley, you're either going to be in at the south end, Representative Casey Snyder's district. In the middle, Logan City, etc., you're going to be in Representative Dan Johnson's district. And north, you're going to be in Representative Mike Peterson's district. For state senators, most of Cache Valley, you're going to be in State Senator Chris Wilson's district. If you live south of Nibley, so part of Nibley and Hiram, and then over in Brigham City and Box Elder County, you're going to be in Senator Scott Sandal's district. And then, so you can find this again at le.utah.gov. And while you're there, you can see their contact information. All of Cache Valley lawmakers, and most, not all, unfortunately, but most of the state House and state Senate in general statewide list a contact number, a home phone or a cell phone, and then they always have an email address. It's legally mandated that they have an official utahsenate.org or Utah House. And so they have an email address. Now, during the session, this is where we get into the stuff I have learned over the years because of the show that may not be, the common knowledge out there, but it's useful knowledge. During the session, if you email while the session is happening, you're emailing a staffer, most likely. Not always, but in a lot of cases, your email is going to be seen and read by an intern, by a staffer. And so 2 things I can tell you. Don't write angry. They get a lot of those. And you wouldn't believe some of the completely unhinged stuff that hits a lawmaker's inbox, especially during the legislative session. And I'm not just talking about the obvious unhinged stuff like death threats, which unfortunately they get, insulting emails. I saw one a little while ago for a Republican lawmaker from the Wasatch Front from the Woods Cross area, Senator Todd Weiler. He shared with me an email he got from a constituent with the constituent's info removed, in which this person was just going on about what a horrible human being he was and how he was a waste of air and water that we're short on anyway. And what this person was upset about is Senator Weiler had a bill that was going to make some technical changes that were obviously going to affect this person's career. Technical changes that were going to mean changes in this person's job. They were upset about that. It wasn't a controversial issue. It was literally a clerical issue, but this person was mad about it, and they decided to send that email to their state senator. And what did Senator Weiler do with it? Well, he cut their name off of it so they wouldn't be exposed themselves. He didn't want to dox anybody, and he posted it. He sent it to me and said, you should talk about this on your show and tell people not to do this. And I did that day. This was a couple of years ago. And then he posted it online. And that was the end of it. I guarantee that insulting, just absolutely mean email, if anything, it solidified his backing of the bill he was running. It didn't change his mind. So be nice. And I'm not talking cutesy nice. You don't have to kiss their behinds. You can be blunt, you can be direct, you can say things like, I'm very disappointed you're supporting this or not supporting this. But remember, you're talking to a human being. Remember that during the session, this is going to be read by most likely a staffer or an intern before it gets to the lawmaker, because in session, they don't have time for their inboxes that are already kind of flooded, most of the time at least. So send them a respectful email and explain to them thoughtfully why you're concerned about this or that, or why you don't think they should be doing this or that. It really does matter. And it doesn't have to be an organized campaign of hundreds of your neighbors. One email that expresses thoughtfully why you think this or that is not the direction to go can cause a lawmaker to pause and think about it. Because if they know you are a constituent, they feel more of a responsibility to have a response, even if they don't type and send a response, to have a response in their own minds. And that's been my experience. And again, I acknowledge I'm in a unique position. If I text them, they always respond. But that's because they don't want me going on the radio saying, Representative Snyder, no time for KVNU and Cache Valley listeners. He doesn't want me to say that. I'd never say that, actually, because Representative Snyder always makes time for us whenever I ask. And most of our lawmakers are great that way. Representative Dan Johnson, as well, is great to make time. Senator Chris Wilson has never said no. Sometimes because of scheduling, we have to rearrange a few times. We've even had to cancel sometimes and postpone an interview a week. But I've only had one lawmaker in Cache Valley ever on a repeated basis say no to an interview. And that's good. So I recognize I'm in a unique situation here. If I text, they're going to give me maybe a little bit more consideration because this is a radio show with a big audience. But if you text, if you email, it doesn't get ignored. You don't have to have a radio show with a big audience to get their attention. They live here in the Valley. And this isn't to say that occasionally there's an issue where they wander or that they're perfect, nothing like that. What I'm saying is that it really does have an impact if you send an email, if you send a text, if you call them and leave a voicemail, if that's an option. Some lawmakers, again, list their cell phone numbers there. And you explain to them respectfully and thoughtfully, this is the bill I'm concerned about. Here's why I'm concerned about it. Or if there's something they're opposing and you feel like they shouldn't, here is why I think you should support this. It really, really does matter. And here's your final inspiration to do that. If you aren't, I guarantee you the people who disagree with you are. That is almost always the case. If you are an opponent of school vouchers, which I know most people I know here in Cache Valley are, if you're not emailing your lawmakers offering up your opinion on why we shouldn't do this to public schools, take the money out and send it to for-profit schools, if you're of that mindset, if you're not emailing your lawmakers telling them you feel that way, I guarantee you the out-of-state pro-school voucher organizations are collecting and sending form emails like crazy. I got one just today. So there's your final inspiration to engage and play a part in this and offer your opinion. Again, don't be rude. You're just going to get ignored. Don't be insulting or threatening. You're just going to get ignored and maybe even reported to the police. Be respectful, be thoughtful, but never for a second assume that Cache Valley lawmakers especially, or our two state senators representing us in the state Senate here in northern Utah, Senator Sandel and Senator Wilson, never assume that your email is just going to fall on deaf ears. It might not get to the lawmaker directly during the session. It might be a staffer or an intern, but they record the emails. They keep tallies. Lawmakers, I've been sitting in the room when a state senator turned to his or her intern or staffer, key staffer, and said, how many emails are we getting on this? Are they for or against? Right before a vote. I'm not kidding you. I've seen that happen. It matters. So le.utah.gov, again, is the website. You can find any lawmaker's contact information there, what they provide. You can also submit feedback various different ways. You can also go down in person and use what's known as the old school Blue Note system. This is where you walk up to the desk outside of the state Senate chambers and the state House chambers where lawmakers come for recess times, and there are blue notes on that desk, blue pieces of paper. You write down your name, the lawmaker you're talking to, and your comments, handwritten notes. The sergeant-at-arms, the security staff there, the green coats, because they all wear green coats, will then, as soon as is possible, take a stack of blue notes to the various lawmakers they're addressed to, and they do read those. You can see it in the live stream. You can see them sitting there during floor debates, flipping through those blue notes to see what constituents who have come all the way to the state capitol to voice an opinion have to say. So, and it does matter. And believe me, on a lot of these issues, I'm not saying our lawmakers aren't informed. I think they try their best. But there are hundreds of bills sponsored by 70-plus different lawmakers in the House, 26 or 27, I think, in the Senate. I can't remember. And their staff helps them keep up on what each bill is about. But a lot of times when they are headed into a vote, they're doing so without a real pulse on what their constituents think. So it's up to them. They make a judgment call, and that's what we elect them to do. But if you're not voicing your opinion, you're just subtracting some information from what informs lawmakers before they cast a vote for or against a piece of legislation that is coming from another lawmaker. So be a part of it. le.utah.gov. There's my little lecture / inspiration, I hope, for you to engage. Don't feel like it doesn't matter. We'll be back right after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:42, and the news is brought to you by Roof Rescue. Looks like traffic still slow going on the north side of the valley, especially US 91 around Hyde Park Lane. Reported the traffic light being out. Don't know if that's still the case. The latest traffic cams, though, show still very heavy traffic, especially southbound in that area. The driver of a truck was hospitalized after being struck by a train this afternoon. The crash was reported just before 1:30 p.m. near 110 West, 800 South in Trenton.
We were informed the occupant needed to be extricated out of the car, which they were, and then they were taken up to a hospital in critical condition.
Late word is that the patient had been transferred down to an Ogden area hospital. Authorities are not releasing the identity of the driver pending notification of family. They do believe he was a local resident. The train continued to travel along the tracks for some time before coming to a stop.
We have our accident reconstruction investigators up on scene, and we won't have any additional information on that investigation for quite some time.
The area is not one that has heavy traffic, and deputies do not believe there are arms at that railroad crossing to warn drivers of an oncoming train. Investigators seized stained bedding, strands of what looked like hair, and a single glove when they searched the Washington State apartment of a graduate student charged with stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death. Court documents unsealed Tuesday include a list of 15 things taken from Brian Koberger's campus apartment at Washington State University. No weapons were among the seized items. Koberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary in connection with the slayings of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Zana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin in the neighboring town of Moscow, Idaho. He has not yet had an opportunity to enter a plea and is scheduled for a preliminary hearing in June. And as you may have heard now, rock legend David Crosby has died. More from ABC's Jason Nathanson.
Launching his career as a member of the Byrds in 1964. You want to know? David Crosby was a triple threat, a legendary voice, fantastic hands on the guitar, and a gifted songwriter. Crosby, Stills and Nash was formed in 1968. Neil Young joined them just in time for Woodstock. And their first album as a foursome, 1970's Deja Vu, went number 1. But the guys fought a lot. Crosby, often the instigator. He had a successful solo career, a history of drug and health problems. We asked a few months ago if he was going back on tour.
I want to, but I don't think I can, man. My hands are going. I have tendonitis in both hands.
David Crosby was 81. Jason Nathanson, ABC News, Hollywood.
KBNU News Time is 5:45.
This is David from Roof Rescue. A roof is not something most people think about until they notice a leak on the ceiling. This time of year, fluctuation in temperatures, along with rain, snow, and ice, can do a number on your roof. If you notice these leaks, they won't go away on their own and are oftentimes a sign that the roof has reached the beginning of the end of its life. Call Roof Rescue for a free analysis, diagnosis, and estimate. Let's fix those leaks and keep you dry this winter. Call 435-999-4268 or visit roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KBNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, slight chance of snow this evening, low 15 to 20. Partly sunny skies tomorrow, high around 30. Partly cloudy into the lower 20s for the high on Saturday. It's been to 25. It's 23 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by the Duct Hunter. They remind you to change your furnace filter every 3 months. Your furnace will run more efficiently. To clean your ducts, call them at 435-770-4813. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
If it's leaking, replace it. If it's worn, replace it. If you're constantly worrying about it with every windstorm, replace it. What are we talking about? Your roof. Palmer's Metal Mart is your place for a long-lasting, great-looking metal roof for your home, cabin, barn, or shed. Metal roofing is the put-it-up-and-forget-about-it roofing solution. For almost 30 years, people have chosen Palmer's Metal Mart for metal roofing for their selection, price, and most importantly, the professional help you get with your project. From start to finish, Metal Mart can help you with all the options for your amazing metal roof. Whether it's an accent on your roof or a complete re-roof, Palmer's Metal Mart is the place to go. Metal provides a unique and timeless look that gives the wow factor to any project. So come see the metal roofing experts at Palmer's Metal Mart, located in Lehigh and Logan. We're ready to help. Ask about quick same-day will calls or delivery to your door. Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store.
Where's my glasses? My contacts are hurting my eyes.
Your busy life does not have to be limited by blurred vision or the hassle of contacts and glasses. Hi, this is Dr. Landon Karen. I am a board-certified ophthalmologist with Northern Utah Eye Center. I'm excited to announce that we are now offering LASIK eye surgery. LASIK eye surgery doesn't just change your vision, it changes your life. Visit northernutaheyecenter.com or call 752-2020 to schedule your free LASIK consult today.
You're gonna love what you see.
Do you know a champion in our community? Nominate them for the KVNU Above and Beyond Salute. Every Friday morning at 8:30, we'll spotlight a firefighter, law enforcement officer, healthcare worker, or other deserving individual and give them a $40 gift card to Firehouse Subs. Submit your nominations for the Above and Beyond Salute by visiting kvnutalk.com. Help us recognize the champions in our communities. The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU, the voice of Northern Utah.
I'll light the fire. You place the flowers in the vase that you bought today. Staring at the fire for hours and hours.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Sad music news there, Bill, that you had during the news break there.
Yeah, he'd been through, I guess he had a couple of
that.
liver transplants over the years.
I didn't know all of that.
And apparently almost died waiting for a new liver some years ago. But
yeah, I had never known all of that. So, wow. Not your typical, not the person you would typically see criticizing lawmakers like this, but the Deseret News opinion, one of the most well-known names in Deseret News long-running opinion crew, Jay Evanson, he's usually a defender of what the state legislature does, to the point where his critics actually hate him for that, because he's defended them at times when some folks feel they shouldn't have been defended, but he had an op-ed out today that caused some ripples. In fact, some lawmakers took issue with it. But here's the point he's making. So tonight, right here on our airwaves, you'll hear Governor Cox's State of the State address. Governor Cox is expected to mention this tonight, but he had said in some previous interviews with the media and with his direct link town hall events around rural areas, he said repeatedly, we need more, quote, mainstream people attending legislative hearings. And he says it's a challenge because that means you've got to come up to the Capitol, you've got to park. Most people have jobs and lives, and so getting down here is not easy for the average citizen. But Governor Cox said the problem is that activists, especially paid activists by organizations that are sometimes not even based here in Utah. Rumors went around about this during the book banners, as you know them, the Utah Parents United crowd. They burst on scene with these pretty fancy, and I'll tell you because I used to build websites, not cheap websites, and suddenly they were here. And suddenly they were in 9 other states at the same time. And so it was obvious there's money behind this. Who's funding this? Well, it turns out it was Heritage Action, an offshoot of the Heritage think tank. And it was being funded from out-of-state donors. And no one knows who because it falls into that dark money category where they funnel it through nonprofits. So you don't know who the donors are. And they were setting up these websites and organizing and paying these groups to be concerned parents. And they flooded Utah State Legislative Committee meetings, resulting to a knee-jerk and kind of embarrassing moment where the Senate President and Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, gave them what they wanted, which was a very rare, extraordinary session was called to pass a bill to ban something that doesn't even happen here in Utah, outside of college campuses where it should happen because it's an area of study, critical race theory. But the example is just one of many where Governor Cox is trying to say, basically, look, average Utahns don't care about these things. They're concerned about things like water and street signs and better job opportunities and higher wages, health care, child care, their neighborhoods. These are the things that the average, as Governor Cox calls them, mainstream Utahns care about. And he said we need more mainstream people coming up to attend legislative hearings because right now you're getting drowned out by the extremists because the extremists, whether they be extreme on the left or extreme on the right, usually have well-moneyed backers from out of state that pay them to be activists or at least pay for their websites and their organizational tools that they use to get people up to Capitol Hill to flood a committee meeting before a bill is heard. The examples given, Jay Evanson writes about this, and he said, the problem is this is never going to happen. The average Utahn has a job, has kids, has a life. They're not going to be able to make a lot of time like these activists can do, who do it professionally, to come up here and be in committee hearings. And so Evanson wrote in his op-ed published today in the Deseret News, lawmakers are derelict in their duty here, he says. He cites this example, two examples actually. One was Senator Lincoln Fillmore had a bill that was going to make some minor changes to an aviation thing. Lincoln Fillmore had the bill that was going to make some technical changes to a digital license pilot program. The flight changes that was Senator Colmore. Either way, both bills were innocuous. They weren't no one was expecting a conspiracy around either, and both of them were stalled in committee when committees panicked because all these people showed up to scream about them. What was the issue with the digital driver's license pilot program Senator Lincoln Fillmore wanted to create? Well, according to the activists that showed up, it was a secret UN plot. I'm not kidding. This was the actual testimony they gave. It's on public record. It was a secret UN plot to basically make us all digital citizens, because digital citizens can be deleted. You can be disappeared through a digital system. And one of the people who testified said that, they quoted the biblical mark of the beast passage, and they also, Evanson points out, provided a lot of false information about a private Swedish company that was going to implant chips in the hands of vaccine passports, and that it was Switzerland, and that everybody would be required to get them, and the digital driver's license is pilot program is where it was going to start. So obviously these were, as the British say, nutters. And Evanson says no one was there to challenge them. So lawmakers panicked because there were a lot of them that showed up. But he said, where were the lawmakers to challenge them? He said, our elected officials have a responsibility here too. Knowing that the average mainstream Utahn is not going to be able to make the time there, lawmakers should be better educated on these organized conspiracy theory groups that have money backing them, that can afford to come up there because someone is buying their organizational tools to make it happen. He said lawmakers are, quote, derelict in their duty to be so naive as to not understand this. Well, as you can understand, the reaction today on Capitol Hill was not happy with Jay Evanson for the criticism. But you know what? He's right. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
Hey, everybody. John Weiss from Heritage Jeep. You know, getting from point A to point B in Utah weather is always a gamble, unless, of course, you're in a Jeep. And there's never been a better time to find yourself behind the wheel of one of the most rugged and capable vehicles on the planet. Right now at Heritage, check out $4,500 bonus cash allowance on 2022 Jeep Gladiator 4x4, the Jeep that does it all. Heritage Jeep, your hometown dealer with the biggest deals.
Hi, this is Tyler. Recently, my father passed away, and White Pine provided the funeral services for our family. They were friendly, thoughtful, and attentive to every detail. You know, it isn't often that a loved one passes away, so it was very important to my family that everything be handled just right. Because my dad was loved by so many people, we had a lot of family and friends that traveled from out of town. I really appreciate how White Pine Funeral Services made sure everyone was comfortable and that the focus was where it needed to be, on my dad and my family. They really took care of us during this tender time.
Bear Lake's Monster Winterfest is January 27th through the 29th. Come on up for a weekend of fun and adventure. It kicks off Friday morning with winter sports at the sinks and lookout areas in Logan Canyon. On Saturday, watch hundreds of brave souls jump into the icy cold waters of Bear Lake for the Monster Plunge. Warm up with a bowl of chili at the Chili Cook-Off, and don't miss the Cardboard Boat Regatta. There's a fun run and, of course, Cisco Disco Fishing. Don't miss this fun winter tradition. Bear Lake's Monster Winterfest, the 27th through the 29th. Go to bearlake.org for all the details.
Wrap up today's show with a little traffic update. We had a caller during the bottom of the hour news break saying that the light at Hyde Park Lane and US 91, a busy intersection this time of day, was out. And so effectively that busy intersection is a four-way stop, and you can imagine how that's going.
And looking at the UDOT cameras, the latest images still show very heavy traffic, especially southbound. So I don't know if the light's working, and that's just just all the backed up traffic from earlier, but not sure.
Still, usually flows pretty steady through there. Looking at the camera here myself, I would guess, it's still pretty backed up there at Hyde Park Lane and US 91. North and south, so mostly south, as Bill said. So avoid the area if you can. Tonight, Dave Ramsey, followed by at 6:30, Governor Spencer Cox and the State of the